high blood pressure are primary causes of chronic kidney disease. Why is that? Why are these two diseases linked with the kidneys? Well, the issue with the diabetes is the blood sugar. So blood sugar is toxic. It's actually a sweet poison. So the blood sugar builds up in the kidneys, breaks down the cells, including the nephrons, and it reduces the filtration efficiency. So the sugar blocks all the normal pathways, and over time, it'll simply break it down. The high blood pressure causes a different effect because, again, I mentioned the kidneys actually regulate the blood pressure. So, for example, if the blood pressure is 120/80, that's considered ideal and normal. That's great. When a person is under stress or they have a fever or they become dehydrated, their blood pressure may go up very rapidly or down very rapidly. And so the kidneys are responsible for balancing that. They have to adjust themselves, either make more urine, make less urine, and change the electrolytes. But when the blood pressure is high chronically, it causes swelling and permanent damage and scarring to the kidneys, which is irreversible. And so that's why we need to monitor the blood pressure and the blood sugar in order to maintain healthy kidney function. Now, what about people who decide not to take care of themselves and they either progress despite medication, despite diet changes, and things are just getting worse? So again, that acute kidney injury goes to a chronic kidney disease. It goes through those 5 stages, and then once you're at end-stage renal disease, dialysis must be initiated. What is dialysis? So basically, the kidney's job is to filter out the urea and other toxic products. If the kidneys can't do it, then we have to help them do that. So there's 2 ways to do dialysis. One is peritoneal dialysis, and the other is called hemodialysis. So peritoneal dialysis is done through the abdominal wall. There's special filters that are hooked up, and then there's a membrane that actually filters out the blood and the fluid and takes out the waste products. So that functions as a kidney by using the abdominal wall itself. The other one, which is much more common, is hemodialysis. So this is where people come into a center, usually a dialysis center, 3 days a week, either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or some other rotation. So basically every other day they are required to come in. They sit there for 5 or 6 hours, and a large vein is applied into one of their arms over a site called a fistula. So a fistula is a graft between an artery and a vein, okay? So it's a large vessel. A needle is put into it to filter out the blood through a machine and then to put that blood back. So it's a very large apparatus. It takes hours and hours and hours to do, and those people have a reduced quality of life because they have to spend 3 days a week getting dialysis in order to function. Now, there are some people who miss dialysis, either on purpose or by accident, and those people become uremic. They become very, very sick. The ammonia levels increase, the potassium level increases, and those people can die. So in the emergency department, every time I work, we have at least 1 patient per shift who's having some issues with their dialysis or their kidney function, and we usually have to admit those people to get aggressive care. Now, if dialysis is used, it can be used for many years, but again, it's not a substitute for what the human body can do by itself. So the only way to fix that would be a kidney transplant. The dilemma with kidney transplants is that the waiting list is very, very long, and there are millions of people, as I mentioned, 30 million people in the United States alone that have chronic kidney disease. So on the transplant list, you have to meet certain criteria. There are age groups. There are different qualifications. Currently, there are 17,000 available transplants and 100,000 people on the waiting list. So between 17,000 who are available to do transplants, 100,000 people are still on the list. So you have a 1 in 10 chance of getting on the list in a proper amount of time. You have to be a match. You have to have all kinds of other specific criteria filled. And then you have to take suppressive medication for the rest of your life. So there are many celebrities who actually had kidney transplants. People like Selena Gomez, many basketball players, many celebrities have that, and they live perfectly healthy lives. But again, for the average person, unless you get a match very quickly, like through a family member or a friend, you'll spend years waiting on the kidney transplant list, and some people will die, unfortunately. So I hope you learned a little bit about kidney disease. We talked about acute kidney failure, chronic kidney disease, the primary causes, and the important functions of the kidneys themselves. I will have a blog up for you later this week so you can read through some of this information. If you have some experience with kidney disease or you have other information you would like our listeners to know, please send me an email or connect with us on social media, and I'll be happy to forward that information along. I thank you so much for joining me on today's episode, and we'll have you back again next week.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Visit simplehealthradio.com to read the blog, follow links mentioned on this episode, and easily share content with your family and friends. Subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and the 3 and Out Radio Network. Be sure to connect with Dr. Emron on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Tumblr to send us your questions and ideas.